Very good morning, Juan Fernandez, G, Malaysia, friends, ambassadors, and delegates. Of course, it gives me profound pleasure to be here. One of the reasons why I accepted is to escape the protocol arrangements in Kuala Lumpur. If you appreciate the conditions now, that my wife happens to be the Deputy Prime Minister. So the protocol would demand that I serve as a good consort spouse. And even the king was tickled when she was there in the palace and announced. The announcement began by saying that the arrival of the Right Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Azizah, accompanied by Anwar Ibrahim. So that's my status. So I learned a lot of humility. But she made this very important remark. She said, Anwar, I've been a spouse for decades. I didn't raise a single complaint. So please get used to this. That is, in a way, a disruption in the way I used to think and reflect. I had served on numerous occasions, more than 10.5 years in prison. Now, before I went to prison, Azizah was a trained ophthalmologist from the Royal College of Surgeons, Ireland, and very good Asian wife. But the moment I was released and given the full pardon of the king, she's the Deputy Prime Minister, very assertive, very strong conviction, and I have to behave myself. So it's very disruptive in a sense, but I am always reminded of the lessons by Peter when he referred to the economic turmoil then as the gale of creative destruction. He used the term destruction. It meant disruption. Because when things fall apart, the center cannot hold. In economic parlance, we have to view it in a negative sense, or we may choose to create anew based on solid principles of ethics, governance, and good management. Yours, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. And is of course due to your dedication, your indefatigable work and commitment for a cause. And but we are, as I think reflected in many in the speeches and also in the theme espoused by MAP, that these are not normally challenging but unprecedented and uncharted. Look at the issue of governance. It is very difficult to ascertain what the future is. Looking at the leadership in the United States and many in the region, we don't know. We can't rely solely on experts, political analysts. They'll give immense help, but not the solution. The experience we witness in Malaysia in this unprecedented, upsurge and participation of the masses, expressing their anger and disgust over what was deemed to be a stable political system, a vibrant economy, appreciated by many elites, entrepreneurs, businessmen, including here in the Philippines. But the transformation was not only unprecedented, but came as a total shock to many. My contention, my conviction has always been, by the way, when I use the word conviction, Arab used to tease me. He always said to me, Anwar, don't repeat the word conviction too many times. Because we are men of conviction, we were all convicted. That's Arab for you. And, but the people, they decide. What I want to refer to is the trust, the belief in principles and values and ethics, and that even the simple masses, not able to articulate the vision and the sophistication, but the drive due to their commitment to core values in life. What is right, what is wrong, what is integrity and honor. And therefore, I use the phrase, the wisdom of the masses. When you refer to Jose Rizal, I benefited a great deal. I learned a great deal from him. I not only consider him the greatest Malay, but also the precursor of Asian Renaissance. Because he was championing values, ethics, principles, justice, humanity in a period where people seem to be resigned to the fact that you cannot envisage change under colonial rule, repressive rule, because the cost would be unbearable to many. He of course suffered. And you know, Ultimo Adios, which I happened to memorize. But that source of conviction and belief would send a strong signal and appeal to so many. Now let me come back to the Malaysian experience. There are things that we do that cause disruption to the elite, to the endemic corruption, which now has become somewhat a culture in society. Because it was tolerated by managers, entrepreneurs, big businessmen, elites. They were not prepared to see disruption because they stand to lose. No serious political analysts, journalists, even emphasize the change. Because the change will be too costly. Malaysia has experienced 61 years of UMNO Barisan Nasional rule. I mean, generally, I must say that comparatively to the experience in many countries in ASEAN, it's relatively certainly peaceful, economically quite vibrant. The leaders who squander billions are much smarter and sophisticated. If they compare to some other countries, they say, you build a project, which costs $1 million, you charge 5. In one particular country, you don't see the bridge. But in Malaysia, there was a bridge, although it cost $4 million extra. So that's why the system somewhat was tolerated. And, but you cannot fool the people all the time. Abraham Lincoln, you can fool some, you can't fool all the people all the time. You must believe. This is what I think entrepreneurs, CEOs must share. That business, as also in case of governance, it's not just about managing a particular sector, but also to realize that you manage people. An issue of justice, compassion is very important. I played, of course, a small role in this last exercise. We suffered 20 years. The struggle, keep in mind, it was 20 years. But say, I started it. No, not true. The values, the spirit of the struggle was way before that. Then include people like Jose Rizal, the great and his intellectual luminaries in the past. But we did participate in this long drive to create awareness, not to dismiss it as something permanent, unchallenged, and therefore you allow for those who are corrupt, oppressors, to maintain power in their rule. We had a general major conference in Kuala Lumpur last Saturday on the economy, charting the future, and the fate of the indigenous Malays, declared open by Dr. Mahathir, the Prime Minister, and I was given the honor to close it. I'm not opposition government, I'm not an elected member of parliament, I'm just Anwar Ibrahim. But I was frank enough in this exchange to say, look, you now congratulate us. You seem to be expressing your satisfaction that change has taken place. But please do, in all humility, acknowledge that you could have done more to stop this rot. You can't rely solely on the politicians, because the CEOs and managers and the business community have a role sustaining not only their businesses and the economy, but the society and the welfare of the people. Malaysia has seen this transformation, of course, with so many of us suffered imprisonment, dismissed from their jobs. None of my family members could get or secure any job in Malaysia, because the system was really oppressive and permeates in the entire system. It will inflict fear on the CEOs in case they are seen to be conciliatory or helpful to those in the opposition. But change did place. The media was completely under control of the government. The judiciary under the thumbs of the executive. And yet, you saw this change. It requires a commitment, it requires patience. I quoted this morning when Joe Almonte talked about patience. I said, T.S. Eliot, in one of his profound poems, made reference to the term humility. The only wisdom we can hope to acquire is humility. And humility is endless. The humility to acknowledge that we have not done enough for humanity. The humility to acknowledge that change is imminent and that the welfare of your business and family must extend to the welfare of your workers and your people. That, to my mind, would encompass what we term as democratic accountability. There's a dearth of understanding what democracy entails. It's a 5-year term election. You elect those who feel that they have the full authority to disrupt, to ignore what is principles and what is justice, and to ignore the plight of the masses. And it comes to the next elections, with the money they amass through corrupt deals, they will share with the people, buy some voters, and continue with the old ways. I'm not cynical about the need for democracy, but I think democratic accountability is a term that needs to be fully appreciated. We need also to have compassion. How is it that I, after 2 decades of in and out of prison and sufferings, then suddenly decide to work with Mother? Anywhere I go, and everyone I speak to, they say, Anwar, are you sure you made the right decision? Are you sure you can trust him? Are you sure you have forgiven him? I'll go, my close friend and associate, and has served as an advisory member from the beginning in his generation's board, asked me, are you sure you have forgiven him? I said, yes. Tell me from your heart whether you genuinely forgive him. I said, yes. Well, that's all. And he jokingly said, I have not forgiven Bush for cheating in the elections into the year 2000. Which explains volumes, because it is not easy. It was a very painful process. But you think about the general welfare of your people and the country. We have to move on. And people do change. Why do I accept Mahathir? Well, they say because it's a political expedient. He can garner more votes and we can win, and we then exchange. I mean, he will serve in this transition, and there was an agreement that will assume office of premiership in the next few years. Well, that's not just serious reason. I've suffered 20 years. I'm not going to make a deal which is just politically expedient. We made this deal because Mahathir was committed to democratic reforms. He wants to ensure that the country, the theme is save Malaysia from corruption, judiciary must be independent, media must be free, and the enforcement agencies must not tolerate corruption, which begins to be endemic, not only in Malaysia, but also in the ASEAN countries. I'm not saying America, United States is free. The United States, of course, embedded in this institutionalized corruption. Corruption, as they say, is halal, it's permissible if it is through K Street. Notwithstanding that, there was this commitment, and I have no reason to, therefore, suspect. I've given my full endorsement. I have refused to serve in any position in government for a number of reasons. I want to relax and enjoy myself. I can choose to wear a tie or not. Can you imagine if I'm holding office and would follow all Mon Fernandez's instructions? So when Fernando told me to do this or that, I said, look, I was incarcerated too many times for not following instructions. You better get out of this to assume that I'm going to follow your instructions. So ladies and gentlemen, we need patience, yes, but we need compassion. I'm a Muslim. Of course there are problems, there's a lot of misunderstanding because people associate Islam with terrorism, etc., etc. But what is religion if it is not without compassion? What is Christianity? In the words of Jesus, that truth will set me free, and once free, you still have compassion. Similarly, Hinduism, Buddhism. So I think, I believe, therefore, in this age of, you call it disruption, when the center cannot hold things, fall apart, you need patience, you need compassion. Because people talk about values and principles, and you hear more about values and principles from politicians. Most of them don't even have any values and principles left. And people are growing to be more cynical against them, for the right reason. I support this engagement and the discourse among the young, who tends to be more critical, following what the futurists referred to as politics and the most uncharismatic, low moral profession. Because you disregard values, you disregard principles and ethics, you disregard the rule of law. You only take power into consideration. Again, I made this reference to democratic accountability. One must be held accountable. And accountability can only happen if institutions are free. Institutions, beginning with the judiciary, media, and the enforcement agencies. We have this remarkable opportunity, and I appeal not only to political leaders, the young, but more so managers, CEOs, and the business community, which happens to be a very integral part of nation building. This is 2018, not in the years when Jose Rizal envisaged in his great writings, No Limit Hungary, etc. But in this period, we must have this sort of interchange and balance between the role of political leaders, elites, intellectuals and journalists, and business leaders. We want to ensure that business leaders talk about change, talk about values and ethics, talk about compassion, talk about the welfare of the people. In all societies, without exception, of course we talk about Stiglitz or Piketty, about the growing inequality, more glaring in the United States, 1% controlling, and 99% or at least 40% completely marginalized. But look at the Philippines, look at Malaysia, look at Indonesia. Even during the period of vibrant growth and vibrant economy, very little concern about inequality. Very little concern among the elites, business elites, and political elites, about the need for effective reform, land, and education, and health. Yes, there is social mobility. I acknowledge but the pace is so slow. They would render independence meaningless to the masses. In the squatters, those marginalized, be it minority or the majority. I happen to represent a party called Keadilan, Justice Party. Probably the most effective multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious party in Malaysia. Because majority are Muslims or Malays, we have constituted the majority of the population. We have a substantial number of Chinese, ethnic Indians, Kadazans and Ibrahim. And it's interesting, the recent development. Ethnic Indians have discarded their old race-based Indian parties and have sworn in large numbers to support Justice Party. The reason being the trust that this party can champion their cause. I told them that this is not an Indian party, this is a Malaysian party. I'm not in India, I'm Malay. But the difference being, I will honor my commitment, whether to a Malay Muslim or Indian Hindu or a Chinese Buddhist or Christian. And this is based on pure trust. We have to honor that commitment. Because in our societies, people express disgust and anger because they are marginalized. Because there's a very little understanding from the elites in the cities as compared to those minorities or the poor in the provinces. And this has to change. That's why I use the term democratic accountability. Democratic accountability, as opposed to just democracy determined by the ruling clique and the elites, by it in the media or in business or in politics, who determine the welfare without even a clear understanding and wanting to share the aspirations, frustrations of the vast majority of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, 3-4 months ago I was still in prison in solitary confinement. You can sense my strong passion for the meaning of freedom and justice. I consider myself just terribly useless if I come out after all these years of sufferings and not sharing all my friends. But what is the essence, the meaning of freedom and compassion or justice? Not only to Anwar or the elites, but to the common man and woman in the streets, in the villages, and in the rural heartland. The Muslims, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Hindus are the enemies. So I think I would fail my duty if I do not then share these ideas and principles. What have I learned? Have I changed? Yes. In all humility, I must acknowledge that my passion for justice and freedom is far more stronger than the period when I was fighting for justice and freedom before I was incarcerated. And this passion, to my mind, is not negotiable. It doesn't matter. Well, I've waited 20 years to become Prime Minister. Over 1998, I was the Prime Minister designate. Then I was a convict. Then I was opposition leader. Then back as a convict. And a convict there, I told my friend Era, is not a house arrest. It's a solitary confinement. Solitary confinement. So friends all over the world just send me books to read. So in a way, I'm more learned, reading all the classics and the books that I can find. And fireworks of Makati, for example, friends collected and gave me. Reread Jose Rizal. Reread the Chinese classics, Indian classics, Arab. Of course, the great Western canon. And reread Shakespeare, the entire works of Shakespeare, 4.5 times with copious notes. So I would advise you strongly, if you see anyone too busy to read and reflect, spend some time in jail. So ladies and gentlemen, it's not a very structured speech, but it's an expression from the heart. I express what I believe, and I believe strongly and passionately in freedom and justice for all. There's no so much talk about ideologies and religion. There's too much hypocrisy and contradictions. The most religious can be the most corrupt. Therefore, one must have accountability. And this is what we mean by democratic accountability. And I am an optimist. It could happen. Nobody in the life science believed that it could happen in Malaysia. But this is a process. That's why I told Mahathir, Prime Minister, don't worry about me. The most I would intend to do in the next year or so is to participate in this parliamentary reform agenda. You please run the government. You're given enough space and latitude, and I give you all the support that you require. Because we happen to be representing the largest party, the largest representation in Parliament. And I have given that sort of complete support to the man who sent me and placed me 6 years in solitary confinement. But you have to move on. We have an agenda, we have a country to serve. Najib placed me into solitary confinement for the last almost 4 years. And when asked what was the future of this ex-Prime Minister Najib, my advice is get a good lawyer. That's the best I can say. Because the experience, the 1MDB scandal was due by the economists as the largest single scandal affecting a country's resources ever recorded in the history of mankind. And that is, of course, horrendous. One of the reasons I was again put in jail in 2015 was because after winning in the 2013 elections with the popular vote, 52%, can you imagine? Given all this scenario, we managed to garner 52% support in the 2013 elections. And because I raised the 1MDB issue in 2010, after 2013, with 52% votes, I was still sent back to the reading culture in solitary confinement. But you ask me, do I forgive Najib for what he has done to me personally? I said yes. I don't intend to pursue that particular issue at a personal level. But what he stole from the country, he has to return. There's no compromise. I do not have the mandate on behalf of the people to say it's okay to steal from us and from the nation. I can only say that what you have done to me personally, use the courts to humiliate and send me to prison, I've forgiven you. But you must accept the fact that the billions stolen must be forcibly returned. It will be absurd for any political leader in this country, Indonesia or Malaysia, to suggest that I, as a leader, a prime minister or president, can forgive a man who has stolen billions. No. I can forgive him for the insult, for the injustice inflicted on me, but one has to return. That is our decision, and Mahathir's decision, which I fully support, that we must make sure that every cent stolen from the people must be returned. Thank you again, you. Thank you again, all friends.
Thank you, Dato' Seri Ibrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Q&A.